I don't remember what we were talking about, but somehow suicide got brought up. And I remember kind of mentioning, I think I'm just going to do it. And I think she didn't seriously, thought I was joking, something. And I barely remember going down into my cellar, and it was a creepy looking house. I got pictures of it still too. It was so creepy. This is an old, probably 100-year-old house, and it had this creepy cellar that led down to a little hole in the wall, or not in the wall, in the ground. I'm sorry, like a tiny little hole in the ground, and it was just bricks surrounding it, and it was creepy. So I remember kind of going down in there and tying my belt up to one of the rafters on the ceiling, and that's really all I remember. And my next conscious memory is I'm inside the wall. And thinking back on this, it bugged me because, one of the main driving forces to me wanting to leave this life anyway is because of how amazing it is on the other side with the white light and, the unconditional love that you feel and the beauty and the downloads of all this information and understanding how the universe works and all this stuff that everybody talks about. And that ain't what I experienced. I experienced something, thinking back on it, it looks like something straight out of a horror film.
Hi, and welcome back to the Natalie Rustic podcast. Today's guest is an incredible YouTuber, tarot reader, law of attraction expert, Rich Lopp, who today will be sharing his 2 near-death experiences as a result of attempted suicide. So in today's message, we will be diving deep into depression, suicidal tendencies, but also we're going to dive into his life from homelessness, hopelessness, to now living and working from home, earning a 6-figure income, and how you can do the same. So guys, without further ado, I welcome you, Rich Lopp.
My name is Rich Lopp. I'm a YouTube tarot card reader, which, like I've said many times, on my end was an accident, but it was very obviously planned the whole time. But really, the way it began, to try to summarize it into the most efficient nutshell that I can, I would say that if I really wanted to go back and summarize the whole story, I was being pushed onto the spiritual path near the end of 2011 and into 2012, and it kind of really all began with the death of my grandfather, honestly. But at that point in time, I was 23, and I was so lost. I was so lost, isn't even the word for it. So lost, strung out on drugs, and just lost beyond belief. But that was the first time I found myself really actually taking a deep dive in my mind, thinking, wow, this ends, what's beyond this?
Right.
Yeah, and I found myself for the first time sitting and wondering, well, I was raised in the church my whole life, but like I abandoned that when I was a teenager. But now I'm really wondering, because like mortality is right in my face. I came home and found my grandpa dead. He was the only dad that I ever had. I was taken away from my parents when I was 2, and I was raised by my grandparents, and I came home and found him dead. And that really put mortality right in my face. And it began with me doing Google searches on scientific proof of life after death or something to that effect. I'm thinking there's got to be somebody out there who's proven that there's either something beyond this life or there's nothing beyond this life. There's got to be proof. And that's kind of where it started. And that was actually a lot of stumbling blocks in my way,
Right.
and I didn't really get very far with it until it was a couple years later when I actually really started diving in and becoming really obsessed with these near-death experiences, where led me to just really getting tired of being here. And that's when I started spiraling down
Yeah.
into the suicidal pit and decided to try to leave and try to figure it out for myself, and which took me to my NDE in 2014. Were you wanting me to continue with that, or did you have any other questions?
Yeah, but I did want to ask the question before you went into it. So we do
Okay.
know that you had a near-death experience, but when your grandfather died and you looked into these NDEs, did you ever have a thought in your mind that going into, being that you were suicidal, did you ever have a thought in your mind that, if I die, everything's going to be fantastic? So were you scared of death before going into this?
No, and it gets really convoluted diving into the mind of a suicidal person, because I mean, I at the time was a single father because I had just left my wife.
Mm,
I was in this mentality where you could not convince me that
right, right.
I needed to be here. You could tell me your kids need you, people love you, this and that. You could not convince
Mm,
me. I mean, I was bullied my whole life real bad. I was always the weirdo that nobody ever liked. And I just became convinced that I'm a mistake. Not
yeah.
only am I a mistake, but I think I'm making the world a worse place by being here. And there was nothing you could tell me to convince me otherwise.
And
And
that's something that we need to really bring awareness to, because there is a lot of people who have these suicidal tendencies, and friends and family are, you're going to be okay, you're going to be okay, but they really don't understand the thought process behind someone who is struggling with suicidal thoughts. So it's really, really good to talk about this and have a conversation about it. So thank you for sharing that.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even to be 100% honest, now where I'm at, I've made such a 180-degree turn from that
Yeah.
I don't fear dying, but what I do fear is how completely devastated my wife and kids would be if something happened to me. So that's
Mm,
like a complete and total turnaround. Like
right.
I don't even recognize that person anymore. Um, but and I have been trying to figure out some kind of way to figure out how to help explain like the suicidal mentality and how to help people with it. And to be 100% honest with you, I'm still having a hard time figuring out how to adequately explain the mentality and how to spot it in somebody and how to help. It's difficult. It's very tricky.
Well,
That's
I
a
really feel that your entire process of your huge life transformation is really going to help a lot of people. You've gone from homeless, suicidal, to a six-figure a year income. It doesn't
Mhm.
get any better than that. So you're able to share with people your journey and how you've gotten out of that situation, how you've transformed your life. So you'll be able to help people to get through this. So I really, really am excited to share your story.
Yeah. So um I ended up finding myself in a position where I had just left my wife, and my goal was I'm going to pick myself up and build my life up on my own, so that hopefully at some point I can be there and be like a good father for my kids and whatnot. And I never even really got the chance to start doing that before she called me and said, you need to come get the kids because I can't take care of them.
Mm,
And at the time, I wasn't really in a position to take care of them either, because I was such a blithering alcoholic. And
yeah.
but I came and got him because at least I had a job. But here I am, single father, working a full-time job, blithering alcoholic, and I'm spiraling downhill fast. And so when it ended up happening, I got suspended from work because I showed up drunk. And I connected with somebody on Facebook, a mutual friend. I had a friend who had just passed away who overdosed on heroin. And through the comments section, I connected with one of her mutual friends. And I don't know how we linked up and connected. I don't even know. But somehow we ended up talking in the inbox, and I invited her over to my house. I said, well, you know what? I'm off work for the next week. I'm just sitting around bored by myself drinking. You need a drinking buddy? You're welcome to come on over. And so she came over, and I had just moved into that house a couple of months before, and I had found out that the lady that lived there before me died in the living room. And
Right.
yeah, this friend, this person that I met, she wasn't really a friend. I just met her actually, but I told her this, and she said, "Oh, do you want to talk to her?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" At this point in my life, I know nothing about anything really spiritual. I know about near-death experiences, but as far as any kind of,
Woo
divination tools or
woo.
anything like that, I don't know anything about that. So she said, "I know how to talk to dead people through Ouija boards." And I thought that sounded like the dumbest goddamn thing I'd ever heard in my life. I didn't want to be disrespectful. I just met her. I didn't want to embarrass her or anything. So I said, "Sure, why not?" So she made a Ouija board out of a pizza box. She took a pizza box and ripped it in half, and took a Sharpie marker and drew the letters on it, and used a little beer bottle cap for the thing that you move around. So we're sitting there and we got our fingers on it, and this thing is moving like crazy. And she's asking it questions. And my thought is that this is her moving this thing, and this is really stupid. And but again, I had just met the lady and I didn't want to be a rude asshole. So I'm thinking, how do I get out of this? This is so stupid. So I worked up this little plan that what I was gonna say was, "Are you a spirit that knows me? And if you are, spell your name." So like there's no way she'll be able to do that. Like
Yeah.
she'll try to make something up and it'll be all bogus, and I'll say, "Well, yeah, that's dumb. That spirit doesn't know me. Okay, I don't want to talk to that spirit no more," because it's something to get out of it. So that was my plan. And I said, "Are you a spirit that knows me?" And it went to yes. And I said, "Okay, spell your name." And it spelled out the name of my dead grandmother.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and this freaked me the hell out because it wasn't a name that a random person could just guess. I don't think it wasn't like Sarah or Ashley or some kind of a common name like that. It was Jeanette, Jeanette. And she was my grandmother that raised me. Like I said, I was raised by my grandparents. They were the only parents I ever had. And she passed away of liver cancer when I was 16. And I said, "Oh my God, we got to stop." So
Yeah.
I got my wish. I got out of it, but not in the way I was wanting to. I said, "We got to stop this." And she said, what do you mean we got to stop?" I said, "That's my grandmother's name." She goes, "Oh, cool. We're talking to your grandma?" I said, "Oh, no. Oh, absolutely
No.
not. My grandma was a strong, hardcore Christian. She would be rolling over her fucking grave if she even knew that I was doing this right now."
Right.
And so we ripped it up, threw it away, and long story short, my house went crazy. It went nuts. Cabinet doors slamming, jars flying off of counters. And there was even several times where I would see what looked like a dark ball of energy roll down the hallway and across the room, about the size of a basketball, and would hear banging on the air ducts, boom, 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 and it would shake the house. And but at the time, I'm so intoxicated all day, every day, sitting around drinking 100 proof vodka that I thought it was cool. I was sitting around watching it like, "Whoa, that's cool, dude. My house is haunted." And
Wow.
it one night, I don't remember how far into the week off of work I was, maybe the second or third day. We were sitting in the kitchen at the table, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but somehow suicide got brought up. And I remember kind of mentioning, "I think I'm just gonna do it." And I think she didn't seriously, thought I was joking, something. And I barely remember going down into my cellar, and it was a creepy looking house. I got pictures of it still too. It was so creepy. This was an old, probably 100-year-old house, and it had this creepy cellar that led down to a little hole in the wall, tiny little, or not in the wall, in the ground, I'm sorry, like a tiny little hole in the ground, and it was just bricks surrounding it, and it was creepy. So I remember kind of going down in there and tying my belt up to one of the rafters on the ceiling, and that's really all I remember. And my next conscious memory is I'm inside the wall. And thinking back on this, it bugged me because I mean, one of the main driving forces to me wanting to leave this life anyway is because of how amazing it is on the other side with the white light and the unconditional love that you feel and the beauty and the downloads of all this information, understanding how the universe works and all this stuff that everybody talks about. And that ain't what I experienced. I experienced something, well, thinking back on it, it looks like something straight out of a horror film. But
Wow.
at the time when I was over on the other side, I had no thoughts, no emotions. There was no nothing. I was just inside my wall, suspended in the darkness. And up above me and all around me, behind me, was just nothing but infinite blackness. And in front of me was, I don't even know how I knew this, but it was the portal that leads into this dimension. And I could see through it. Like it was just kind of a round, and it was like blurry. It looked like it was covered with that plastic wrap that they cover when they're doing construction, where they put plastic covering over the house. And I could just barely see through there, but I could see it clear enough to know that that was the other side of the wall in the cellar where I'd hung myself. But I couldn't see. I just knew that that's what it was. And there was no thoughts. I was just there. I wasn't thinking, oh my God, how did I get here? What am I doing here? What is this? I was just there.
Were you
Blank.
still you? Like, were you still the same person you are now over there? Or was there like a disconnection from your ego so that you were the true form that we are?
That's a good question. I mean, I felt like it's a good question. I never thought about that.
Right.
I would have to say in one way, yes, because I was still my own awareness, but not my personality.
Right.
Because I had no emotions. There were no thoughts. There was not really a thought process. Like, it's really hard to explain, but I had no personality. I was stripped of my personality. But suspended in the blackness were these beings. It looked like there were about 7 or 8 people to the left of me. And they were all looking at me and talking to me inside my head. And they were talking to each other. So they were talking to me, talking to each other. I was responding back to them all simultaneously at the same time. And it wasn't confusing. Like, it was so just normal, I guess. And I can't even begin to recall everything that was talked about, but basically what I got out of it was, we are not here to hurt you. We didn't come here to do anything bad. There's nothing to be afraid of. We are pure negative energy. The same energy that creates feelings of fear, anger, resentment. And again, at the time, I knew nothing about energy, and they were explaining this to me. The same fear, anger, resentment, guilt, all those low frequency emotions. We are the energy that create those feelings, pure 100%. And it was downloaded to me that on Earth, everybody is a mixture of the two. There's no human being on this planet that is only positive or only negative. We're all our own little mixture of both of those energies. Some of us are, I don't know, 50% positive, 50% negative. Some people 60% positive, 40% negative. Some people 60% negative, 40% positive, and everything in between. But everybody is a mixture of the two. And they said, we are pure negativity. And you invited us in here. And again, no thoughts. The only thought that I can kind of remember having is, okay, I'm bored with this. And I kind of looked away from them, and I looked through the portal, and the only thing I can think was, it wasn't really a thought. It was just kind of a feeling like, I wonder what's over there. And as soon as I thought that, I shot straight through the portal into this dimension, across the room and through the other wall. And then I was standing in a meadow. And usually when people talk about being in a meadow, they say it's very profound. There was nothing about my experience that was profound at all. And as a matter of fact, I would have thought it was a dream if I wasn't told what happened, but it wasn't very profound. Or at least maybe my memory of it wasn't profound because I was so intoxicated when it happened. Maybe, I don't know, but I'm standing in a meadow, and there's another being across from me who the energy kind of felt like a father figure, like this is my father or my dad, that kind of energy. And he's basically scolding me like, you idiot, you know better than that. You know, I don't remember the exchange word for word, but the last thing I remember was something to the effect of, the only way you're going to be able to get rid of that energy is to do some kind of magic or spell work, something like that. And then, but at the time I knew nothing about witchcraft or spell work or magic or anything like that. I didn't know anything about any of that. Then I snapped awake in my bed. I'm laying in my bed now. And my friend who was over was sitting at the foot of the bed screaming and crying. You don't know what you just put me through. I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, whoa, my head was pounding. And I was like, whoa, hold up. What are you talking about? I just had the craziest dream. And she told me, she said, you went down in the cellar and you hung yourself and you stopped breathing. Your heart stopped beating. Your face turned white and your tongue was hanging out of your mouth. And I had to cut you down and do CPR to revive you. And I didn't believe her. I thought she was lying. And she said, go look in the mirror. And I went and looked in the mirror, and I had a gash on my neck where the belt cut my neck. And I was like, whoa.
That's
Holy
incredible.
Shit. Whoa. So, but then again, I was kind of pissed off. I was like, well, that sucks. For years now, I've been hearing all these cool stories about the other side and the white light and the unconditional love and all this amazing stuff. And that's what I experienced. And it took me years to figure out that what it was I was in such a low frequency state that
my
vibration was not high enough to take me all the way over to the other side. I just went, it's just like one density over to the lower astral realm is where I was.
Something I think is really important to mention here, and you're obviously delved into the spiritual community. I have learnt that when you drink alcohol, the reason they call alcohol spirits is because when you drink it, you're inviting negative entities into your aura. They can mess around with your mind, right? Put thoughts into your mind, lower your frequency. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. That's why I quit drinking. I finally gave it up for good. I went sober for about 1.5 years, and then I relapsed back on it last summer, and had a pretty good little handle on it. Maybe drink once a month, and no big deal. And the last time I drank, I was up in LA, and a demon attached to me that's unlike any demon I've ever had attached to me in my life. And it was just not pretty. It was not fun. And I don't know if it was because of the area that I was in. Like up there in LA, there's a lot of low negative energies that still, I don't know what it was, but this horrific demon attached itself to me, and I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm never touching alcohol ever again. So yes, oh yes, absolutely. And
Fantastic.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, and but yeah, they absolutely do. And that right there was enough to confirm that to me. I mean, it sounds cool, it makes sense, and that was one of those kinds of things that it's like I believe it, but then I still have a little bit of doubt.
Mm.
Sounds cool, but I don't know if I can prove that, or I don't know if I've seen enough evidence to actually make me believe that until the last time I drank.
Yeah,
But
right. And for the viewers watching, what's an example you could give them to know when you're coming into that sort of lower frequency, how to understand whether you have some sort of attachments? Do you know how you could release them? Do you dive into protection? And this would probably be more for the people who are going into the spiritual journey.
well, as far as that goes, well, actually, the overwhelming majority of us have demons attached to us our whole life.
Mm.
And yeah, a lot of us do. And we don't realize it. Most of the time, they attach to us during childhood. And what opens us up is trauma, some kind of
Right.
childhood trauma. And I know I had a traumatic childhood where, there was abuse and whatnot. I don't remember it, but my sister and I were both taken away from my parents when I was 2. She was an infant. My sister was almost beat to death as an infant. And I,
Oh.
I don't remember any of it though. And my sister doesn't either. But I do know enough to know that that opened me up, and I had lots of demons that are attached to me from childhood. And it's really hard to identify it because you think that's you.
Mm.
I just thought it
Yeah.
was me. I didn't realize that I had these negative entities attached to me because they had been there my whole life, and
Yeah.
and battling that. And I'm still working on a lot. Well, I've shed a lot of attachments, but I think I might still have 1 or 2 of them little buggers attached to me, maybe more. It's
Right.
it's no joke. It's a process
Mm.
of taking who I thought I was my whole life and
Yeah.
completely rearranging my energy and taking control of my energy, and me taking control of my energy. And yeah, so that's a good question. How to know that you have an attachment? It's really hard to put words behind that. Really hard to. Me, like, I suffered from addiction, alcoholism pretty much my whole life, and lots of negative thought patterns.
Right,
Like, I
right.
was an incredibly negative person, always. I had no self-confidence, no self-esteem, no self-respect, and it was bad. It wasn't just like, there's people out here that don't really have much confidence. Mine wasn't just lack of confidence. It was like straight up hate myself.
Yeah. Hi guys, if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to give it a like, share, and subscribe. And also, it would be great if you could tag 3 of your closest friends who would find value out of this content. And more importantly, please comment below your thoughts and how you've gone along your journey, as I'd love to hear from you all. But guys, I won't interrupt any further. Let's jump back into the video. Yeah.
you know
Right.
but
So to see the signs, we really need to focus on, like, where's your mind at? What
mhm,
thoughts are you going on? What's your environment? Things like that. Like, are you more pulled towards depression? Are you more pulled towards anxiety? Like, these are sort of the things that we need to acknowledge and go, how do I get out of this? And that's
yeah,
why your story is so profound. So let's jump into your second near-death experience, and then we'll go into more of how you were able to get out of the life that you once lived and the you that you are today. So
yeah, well, my second one, there wasn't really much of an experience, at least that I can remember. But from that point, I realized, damn, I messed up. I did it while somebody was at the house, so I got to do it when I'm by myself. But
mm,
there's a problem. I'm a single father. I have 2 kids. How am I going to get some time alone? That's tricky. So for months I planned, and the best plan that I could come up with is I'm going to get home from work and make sure my kids are settled down and, you know, being quiet and being good. I'm going to contact the police on Facebook. I'm going to do it real quick so the police can come get my kids, because I didn't want to leave my kid. They were toddlers at the time. They were like 2 and 3. And that was my plan. I'm out of here. And while I'm, you know, leaving this place, the police will come to get my kids. They'll pick up my kids. I'll be out of here. My kids will be just fine, and I'll be out of here. Cool. Well, it didn't really work out like that. I got home from work, and another thing that I'm thinking is, what if they try to revive me? So I don't know why, in my delusional, suicidal mind, I thought this would be a good idea, but I took every medication that I could find in my house and downed them all. Not to, because most of us know that that's not going to actually kill you. It can, depending, but my thought process was, even if they try to revive me, I'll have so many drugs in my system that nothing will work right. So I took my phone and I contacted the New Albany Police Department, and I said, my name is Richmond Lopp. My address is 1413 Charter Street. You need to come pick up my kids right now because I'm about to kill myself. And I clicked send. And as soon as I saw the little picture icon drop down so that I knew they viewed it, I threw my phone in the ground and put the belt around my neck, and I dropped. Now, this is where it's weird, because I have this funny feeling that one of these days, the memory of what happened is going to come back to me. This was April 10th, 2015. And still to this day, I have no memory. My next conscious memory is waking up from the most beautiful, peaceful sleep I've ever had in my life. And my memory had been erased. My memory was wiped clean. To my knowledge, I thought I was waking up in bed before my alarm went off, and it was going to be time for me to go to work. Was what I thought was happening. So I came to consciousness. You know, when you ever wake up in the morning with your eyes still closed and you know you're awake? Well, that was my next conscious memory. I woke up, but my eyes were closed. And I thought, oh man, my alarm hasn't gone off yet. Okay, well, I'm just going to lay here and I'm just going to lay here and relax until my alarm goes off, and then I'll get up and go to work. And then I started realizing I'm cold. Whoo, I'm cold. It is freezing. So I'm reaching for a blanket. And then my nails dug in the dirt because it was a dirt floor. And it snapped me awake, and I went, what the hell am I doing on the dirt floor? Because my memory was erased. I have no clue how long I was out. It couldn't have been longer than 5 minutes. But I rolled over on my back, and I saw the belt hanging from the ceiling. The buckle had snapped off. So I guess as soon as I was out, I mean, it was instantaneous and completely painless. Soon as I dropped, bam, I was out. And I guess the buckle snapped, and I woke up on the floor. And then as soon as I saw the belt hanging up there, that's when the memories came back, and I knew what I was doing on the floor. And I went, oh shit. And that's when I heard boom, 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 boom. The whole New Albany Police Department was at my front door. And I had to do the walk of shame to the front door. So embarrassed. That was the most embarrassing. I told them what happened. I was like, well, it didn't work. I just woke up on the floor. The belt broke. So they took me to University of Louisville Hospital just to x-ray my neck and make sure I didn't break any vertebrae. And then they took me from there to a mental hospital. And that's where I sit for the next month. And I was so pissed off and embarrassed. I was like, I've been planning this for months. I have no better plan. That's it. That's my plan. I've been planning this for months. And that was 100% guaranteed to work. And I lived through it. Now, at the time, like I said, this is 2015. I'm nowhere near being awakened spiritually. But the only thing I knew was I'm not allowed to leave.
Right. Yeah.
I must not be allowed to leave. And yeah, so that pretty much like the suicidal mind is a slippery slope to talk about, because I would feel safe saying that most of us have had the thoughts. It's crossed our mind from time to time, especially
Yeah,
if something
definitely.
bad is happening, where, we think, oh, just to get out of this pain, oh, how nice it would be if I just would die or whatever. But to actually be in that mentality where you're about to do it, and like, you're going to do it, that's totally different. And it's a strange, weird feeling of numbness, actually, is what it is. You go numb.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is no more sadness, the depression, like there are no chemicals in your brain at all. There's
Mm.
no happiness, there's no sadness. You're just dead numb. And when I'm sitting in the mental hospital, I realized that I had been pulled out of that, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. If you could
Yeah.
imagine, there's a line that you cross. And as you're getting close to the line, you're thinking about it, you're maybe talking about it, you're thinking about it and planning it and fantasizing about it. And then when you cross over that line, you're seriously about to do it. Well, it
Yeah.
took me back over to the other side of that line, to where it's like, I wish I could, but I don't want to live through it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank God I own a gun now. Thank God I didn't own a gun back then, or I would be gone. you know?
One question I think is important to ask is, how do you view life now? Like, knowing what you had gone through, how did you integrate that experience into your life? And, do you ever feel guilt or shame? Have you been able to get through that? Have you ever been able to heal from those emotions?
Well, that's really a loaded answer that goes to that, because
Mm.
um now the way I look at life is, it's very obvious why I'm very certain that my guides broke that belt, and I wasn't allowed
Right.
to leave. I wasn't allowed to leave because I have a mission.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Let's
I
talk a
feel,
little bit about that. So you are a huge tarot reader, professional tarot reader. Your YouTube channel is incredible. I love your content. How did you get into tarot? Were you into tarot before this near-death experience, or is it something that just kind of guided you into that lifestyle?
well, fast forward a little bit. After I got out of the mental hospital, I went homeless, and I lived on the streets for
Mm,
the remainder of 2015. I lived under a bridge and ate out of a trash can. And then near the end of 2015, it started getting cold. So I turned myself into a homeless shelter. And I left the homeless shelter and went to a transitionary home so I could work. And on my way to and from the transitionary home and my work, there was a McDonald's that I would, go in there, and I would use their Wi-Fi to sit and watch videos on my phone because I was bored. And I was sitting in McDonald's one day, and I was researching near-death experiences again. And I saw one that was titled, "I Saw the Law of Attraction in My NDE." And I was like, what? Law of attraction? What is that? So I clicked on it.
mm.
Basically, long story short, I got addicted to it. I was like, whoa, you mean to
Yeah.
tell me, are you telling me that all this horrific shit I've been through, I created it? And not only did I create it, but I actually have the power to uncreate this and make my wildest dreams come true? Watch me. And I got obsessed. And I
Right.
spent, from that point forward, that's all I thought about, all I cared about. I would just eat, sleep, shit, manifestation. I would just cram, yeah, I would just cram all the information that I could. And long story short, about a year and a half later, I ended up attending a mind mastery school that was actually founded and taught by a former NASA scientist, where I learned the science behind how manifestation works. Well, on
Right.
my journey, this is so I'm getting to this part here where everything is kind of layered on top of each other, and everything came together like the most amazing masterpiece that's so cool to look back on. But on my journey, I ended up becoming very unstable and just traveling the country. I went homeless again in the winter of 2016. and I was holding a job and sleeping in the back of my work trucks about to freeze to death. And a Facebook friend, a random Facebook friend that I didn't even list, somehow found out about it. I'm not the type to ask for help, but got to talking to me and found out, yeah, I'm homeless in the snow and the ice. And she said, if you can make it here, I'll give you a place to stay. You ain't got to ask me twice. And so that was, I was in Louisville, Kentucky at the time, and this person was in Idaho. So this was about 1,000 miles away. So I moved to Idaho, and when I got there, I experienced what was at the time the most intense connection I had ever felt with a person in my life. There was never anything romantic that happened between us, no nothing. But it felt like this person lived in my head. The only way that I can describe it was I felt naked around this person, like they, I don't know how to explain. It's so weird. Like I'm totally exposed. Like if you could imagine that you're standing on a stage naked in front of everybody and you're like, no, like I feel so exposed, like this person lives in my head and they know everything about me and can read my thoughts. And it was crazy. Anyway, though, during the time that I'm staying with this person, she was at work one day and she called me up and said, I have a friend coming over that I haven't seen in about a year. Would you mind straightening up the house for my friend to come over? I said, yeah, cool. I got you. So I straightened up the house. That evening, her friend comes over and she looks at me and she says, I'm supposed to read for you. I have no idea what that means. Read for me? What does that mean? She said, I don't know why, but Spirit is telling me I'm supposed to read for you. Do I have your permission? Sure, I guess, whatever the hell that means, you know? So we exchanged phone numbers and she came and picked me up. She's actually a friend of mine on Facebook now. Her name's Tina Jensen. And she picked me up, took me to her house, starts flipping these funny looking cards all over the place, and gave me the scariest reading I've ever had in my life. Now, she's a psychic medium, so Spirit's telling her details about my childhood that nobody knows. And she really got my attention when she said, there's somebody on the other side that wants to talk to you. Somebody that you were very close to that passed away. And I'm thinking, okay. She said, who do you know that smoked a pipe? I was like, you have my attention. It was my grandfather. The day that I came home and found him dead, I had just been to the store. I bought him a package of pipe tobacco, and I was bringing him pipe tobacco when I found him dead, you know? So who do you know that smokes a pipe? I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, long story short, she told me shit about my childhood that nobody knows, let alone some lady that lives 1,000 miles away from where I grew up that I'd never met before. And she told me some of the things that were going on now and some of the things that were to come. So I tucked that away and, you know, just kind of filed that, put that in the fucking crazy shit file. And, you know, and I moved to the other side of the country up in a little town called Farmington, Maine. And this person that I had this really strong connection with was still living in my head, driving me insane. And one day, these YouTube tarot videos start being recommended to me in my feed. And I'll never forget the first time I saw a tarot reading video being recommended to me in my feed. I was like, that's the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. People watch that? That is so dumb. Who would watch that? And I kept seeing them. Every time I would open up YouTube, Aquarius, December 2017, you know? And finally, I started taking notice. I was like, wow, people are watching these things. Like if you looked at them, there would be 10,000, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 views on these videos. And I'm like, God damn, there must be something to it. Because I would remember Now, here's the funny part. The reason why Spirit had that lady read for me is because if she hadn't, I never would have clicked on one of those tarot videos. So I clicked on one and I watched it, and it told the story of that connection that I had with that person. And I was like addicted. Like, whoa, how the fuck do you know that? So I became addicted to the YouTube tarot videos, and I would binge watch them like a drug. And behind the scenes, I'm working on manifesting my own business. And this was at this point in time in my life, all I care about is manifesting a business where I sit at home and work on the internet and make six figures. And the tarot was just my little interest that I had outside of that.
Yeah, like a side hustle.
Well, no, it was just something I was interested in. I never in a gazillion years would I have ever considered reading myself. But after about 6 months, I'm getting irritated because I'm watching these tarot videos, and like most people, I'm just spinning around in a circle, going nowhere. And I was like, you know what? I'm broke. I can't afford a personal reading from somebody, but I can afford to take $17 up to the spiritual store and buy me a deck of these little shits and learn how to read myself.
Right.
So that's what I did, for no reason other than to gain clarity on my own situation. And I didn't get any clarity. I got the same damn thing the YouTube readers were getting. And then that's when this little voice started creeping up in my mind. What would happen if you put a couple of those videos on YouTube? Nah, I couldn't do that. Could not do that. I've had my channel up for about 6 months to a year at this point. I would lose my whole fan base of 900 people. I would get laughed off the internet. Nobody would watch that. But that little voice would not shut up. And it got louder and louder and louder. Finally, I said, I just got to scratch this itch. And then I kind of talked myself into it. I was like, you know what? Because I had been building online businesses for the last year, and I would build a business and it would crash and burn. And I would build a business and it would crash and burn. And my business had just crashed and burned again. And I was like, I'm stepping back and taking a break from this. And then I got to thinking, you know what? The woman I was dating had a daughter who was about to start school. And once she starts school, on my days off, I'll have the apartment to myself. And maybe this will give me a fun little project to work on. Maybe just a little something fun. I didn't even think that I was allowed to be a YouTube partner because I was kicked out of the program 10 years ago. I had one monetized video back in like 2010, and AdSense shut it down because they said there was invalid clicks on the ads or something like that. And everybody told me, oh, dude, AdSense shut you down. You will never be able to draw a check on YouTube ever again. And that's just what everybody told me. So in my mind, that wasn't even an option, being a YouTuber. And now thinking back, it's so funny. If you watch my series, Mastering the Matrix, on High Vibe TV, the science of manifestation will explain why that happened that way. It's interesting.
Right.
But anyway, so I put a few of the YouTube tarot reading videos on YouTube, and it blew up pretty much overnight. And then after that, everything happened in my life oh so perfectly, to where I was backed into a corner with nothing but a deck of tarot cards and a phone. And that was my only source of income. And
wow.
Yeah, I've just kept it going. I've kept it going, and here I am today. So
yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Tell us a
It
little
was-
bit about your understanding on the manifestation techniques, law of attraction. What is this course that you've just started?
Yeah, it's called Mastering the Matrix on High Vibe TV.
Yeah.
Basically, lots of mainstream law of attraction teachings. I don't like to take anything away from anybody, but there are some people out there, not pointing fingers, I don't know why, but their teachings, if you take them at face value, it'll work against you. There's a lot of teachings out there, like the movie The Secret. I personally believe that whoever is in charge of producing that movie wanted to mislead people on purpose.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
because there are a lot of things that will work against you. For example, visualization. For example, that's a healthy tool if you know when and like at the right place at the right time, but it's not something that you want to spend all of your time sitting around doing. And I do have, like, one of the pay-per-view videos that I put on my series on High Vibe TV will explain why. The science behind how manifestation actually works. Because long story short, whatever you're focused on can't flow because you're focused.
Right.
So you have to let it go. You have to.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to be able to let it go. And yeah, like basically the way a lot of the teachings are set up and structured is to keep you on the lack vibration, sitting around and fantasizing and thinking and fantasizing and thinking and
Yeah.
saying your affirmations and all that while you're thinking about it, while you are visualizing it, while you are saying your affirmations. Nothing can happen. The quantum field cannot flow while you're doing that. So a
Right.
lot of people, they get on the manifestation path. It doesn't work. They try it for a week, a month, 2 months, and then nothing happens. So they give up on it and they say, oh, that's nonsense. And they give up on it because they weren't taught the right way to do it.
It's
Does that make sense?
interesting that you mentioned that because a lot of things that have happened in my life that I've manifested, I'm thinking I'm manifesting unconsciously because I haven't put intention or thought or energy really into this thing. You know, I've given it a thought here and there, I've given it some intention here and there. And that is when the law of attraction would generally work for me, is when I, as you said, let go, because I'm not thinking about it. I'm not like addicted to the thought of if I think about it, it's going to happen. So what you've just said is a really important key with understanding manifestation. So
Yeah.
where can we find this course? Where can we get a hold of this course?
High Vibe TV. Actually, I can send you a link.
I would love one.
Yeah, I'll send you the link through Facebook. But yeah, I've recently joined forces with the Leo King. Do you know who he is?
No, no.
He's an astrologer. He's a celebrity
Is
astrologer.
he
And
the guy who has the long hair that's on TikTok? Or
mm-mm.
is that someone else? Nope. Okay.
No, he's actually a celebrity astrologer. He's like the founder of pretty much all. He's the one that pretty much paved the way for all astrology and tarot and whatnot on YouTube.
Right.
And I joined forces with him. He owns his own TV network.
Congratulations.
Yeah, he owns his
Yeah.
own TV network. So I do it through his TV network.
And what was
So
that called again? Sorry.
High Vibe TV.
Awesome. So guys, the ones who are watching this video who is interested in the law of attraction manifestation, go and check out High Vibe TV. If you would like to learn more about tarot, I know that you do a course on tarot. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. And that well, if you go to my website, it's all on there. The High Vibe TV, my tarot course, my website is tarotwithrich.com, and that's got everything on there. But
Awesome.
yeah,
Awesome. Yeah.
my goal is to make, because I think, I could be wrong, but I think that manifestation is something that by the time it was made mainstream, it was they misled people on purpose so that people wouldn't believe in it. Because you
Yeah.
see, like in the comments of lots of videos, oh, law of attraction's nonsense. Oh, that doesn't work. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, yeah, if you follow a lot of these mainstream teachings, no, it's not going to work. No, it's not. I want to be one of those people who breaks it down and explains the way it really works. That, especially if you listen to me on High Vibe TV, a lot of the things that you'll hear me talk about sometimes even go against some of the mainstream teachings, and break it down and explain it from a scientific perspective and from a neuroscientific perspective. It's going to be the next pay-per-view video that I do, is the brain science behind how you function just like a radio. Like if you can imagine, you're sitting in your car and your radio is tuned to 102.3 top country hits, and there's all these other radio frequencies blasting into your car, but that's the only one you're tuned into. And your brain's the same way. At any given time, there are 400 billion bits of information happening around you at any given time. Your brain is only able to tune into 4,000 of the 400 billion bits of information. So through your life, from the minute you're born, and everything that you're exposed to, your parents and this and that, your teachers, your friends at school, and that programs you to tune in to a very select few of the bits of information around you at any given time.
Right.
And it's subconscious, and how that works and how to go about unwiring that and programming yourself to tune into something different, to where basically if you really dedicate yourself to reprogramming your own mind, doors open for you. And you can I never want to lead people to believe that you don't have to take action, because you do have to take action. But basically, you can just sit back and watch your life transform, and it's amazing.
Fantastic. And yeah, you're definitely a result of that. You're living truth of that happening. Like your life is completely transformed. So yeah, I'm very interested in checking it out. I wanted to ask you, to end this podcast, what is something positive that you can leave the viewers who may be living the life you once lived, or, someone who may be fearful of death, or someone who might want to get out of that rut they're in? What's something that you can leave with them as a takeaway?
Well, one thing that I try to make it a really strong point not to do is just say those things that are so cliche, because back when I was in that position and I was down and out and lost, the cliche shit would just go in one ear and out the other, and I wouldn't pay any attention to it. And I have a hard time saying it in a way that's not so redundant and cliche, but I promise you, first of all, if I can do it, anybody can do it. There's nothing special about me. Ain't nothing special about me. I'm no smarter than you. I'm no more gifted than you. I'm just a regular human, just like everybody else. And there's nobody on this planet who was more set up for failure than me. And than you will ever know. You have to believe it's possible. The universe has no choice but to hand you evidence that supports what you believe. The only thing a belief is a thought that you think over and over and over until it wires itself into your neural circuitry, burns itself into your subconscious mind, and runs all by itself on autopilot, just like a computer program. So if you can take that, just like forming any other habit, whether you want to form a fitness habit or change your diet, that same operating system governs your thought process. So if you can take the time, the dedication, and the consistency to change what you believe about what's possible in your life just by changing your thoughts, there is nothing that can stop you. And no, they don't want you to know that. You are not a victim of your own brain. Your brain is not something that just happens without you having control of it. If you believe that it's possible and you really get to work changing what happens in here, there's no limits to the things that you can accomplish in life. And there's no exception to that. Again, if I can do it, anybody can do it.